Hey guys, evening everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. Thank you very much for joining us. We're still waiting on a good bit of people. See, we have about 50 something people here, which is not bad considering we had like 2 people just a while ago. So, um, welcome, right, to once again to the CFSI CyberFence series. Today is not exactly a webinar, today is a workshop. All right, so I'll let you all know the details as to how to get your certificate of participation for this one. Unfortunately, I will have to do all the certificates manually this time, but hopefully we should have a sponsor maybe by October, somewhere around there, depending on how things go. And your certificate should be automatically generated with when we upgrade the package, because currently the package only supports 100 people. So to those of you that will be watching this on YouTube that could not have registered for it, I'm sorry about it. I'm working on trying to get the number of attendees up to at least 250, if not 500. But even still, it doesn't matter. We'll continue for however long we could. I didn't have the time to create the YouTube channel just yet, but we do have a Discord channel up and running already. Thank you very much, Alex. Which we will share. The link is actually in the chat. So if you look at your screens, you will see a chat button. You could click on your chat button. It depends on whether you're using it on phone, tablet, PC. There is a chat option somewhere there. That is the Discord link that I've put into there. I will mention it again as people start showing up, because I think we almost have about what, 60 people. Yeah. All right. Okay, great. Yeah, so seeing that we this workshop pretty much filled up in what, guys, less than a day or 1 day or something like that. That was pretty amazing. So thank you all for registering and wanting to join us for the workshops. Um, we it was pretty encouraging to us to know that people, this is what people want. People want to join this stuff. We know a lot of people, they don't have the time to commit to an entire course, or some people don't have the finances to commit to an entire course. So we hope that this is helpful. All right, so let me just take about 10 minutes to run through some of the same slides that we would have gone, the introductory slides that we would have gone through in the last session while people join. All right, so yeah, on behalf of all of us here at the Computer Forensics and Security Institute, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your attendance, and it makes us feel pretty good because we put a lot of time and effort into this, and all of us are really, really busy. So we try to give back still and let you all know. I see Joel almost headbanging in agreement there. Yeah, we're some pretty busy guys. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will try to keep this up for as long as we can. So yeah, on behalf of all of us here at the Computer Forensics and Security Institute, welcome to our first CyberFence workshop within this series. So for those of you all that may be new and didn't join us in the last webinar that we have, we will try to do at least 2 webinars a month. It may be more. When I say 2 webinars, I mean actually 1 webinar and 1 workshop, right? And the workshop, you will be given the certificates of participation at least. All right, so hopefully it counts for something. I mean, you have a lot of certificates from free certificates from Google and Udemy and stuff that seem to show that, okay, you have a skill at least. So that's how we will try to work this in, to show that you have some sort of new skill or experience using a tool or a set of tools, or that you attended a webinar, for example, on the cybersecurity topics of the day, because that's something I have to discuss with these guys here, where we could actually do a webinar and just talk about whatever is the topic of the day with cybersecurity and technology and all these things that you have out there. For example, Fortinet has a really interesting set of things going on right now. Maybe Joel could probably tell you all about that later once he doesn't get in trouble. Sorry, Joel. All right, so yeah, workshop 1, right? Today we want to look at some fundamental cybersecurity theory. So the theory that we will be discussing today is, it's not really for beginners as such, but at least we'll be able to guide you all. Each one of us will do a presentation, a short presentation, about 15 minutes each, on a different topic. And what we will do later on is that each of these topics that we've all presented on, we will probably have an individual webinar and workshop on them as we progress, right? So this is just sort of to introduce you all to the basics of it, so that when we move ahead with the webinars and workshops, we could actually say, okay, well, if you, before the workshop starts, for example, we can tell you all which video on YouTube to refer to and maybe put it in the links when you all register, etc. All right, so because of the time restriction, we can't go in depth as much as we would like to, but it's just a you know, a overall general view of some of the topics that we have here to discuss with you all today. All right, so again, the team, for those of you all that may not know or weren't here last time, my name is Shiva. I'm a director of CFSI. I'm a pen tester, forensics investigator, lecturer. You know, I'm just a regular guy. Right, then we have Alex Samm, one of the superheroes on the team. Alex is a senior at Ernst & Young. He is also one of the offensive security lecturers. Alex is there in his screen looking up and down and all over, etc. Yeah, with 1,000 hoodies behind them. In case you're wondering why 3 of us wearing hoodies, because, well, it's kind of cool with the ACs on right now. And then we have my good friend, Mr. Deodath Ganga. Some of you all may know him as Fish. So, right, so Deo, as we call him, is a field network engineer at Fujitsu, and he's also a pen tester and lecturer here at CFSI. We have Mr. Jonathon Mahabir. Johnny, I would just like to extend congratulations to Johnny, because Johnny is recently employed by Ernst & Young, who will also be working side by side with Alex. So Ernst & Young is just stealing all of my guys, but that's great. All right, Johnny is also a lecturer and a pen tester at CFSI. Johnny has taught almost all the courses that we have at CFSI. Johnny teaches the offensive security, threat intelligence, ethical hacker, network defender, security analyst. Johnny and Alex, actually, they taught most of those as well, if I'm not mistaken. All right, then we have the Hulk of networking, Mr. Joel Gooding, which is why I put that in green. All right, so Joel is a security architect, which is very modest of him to put there. He's also a lecturer on vulnerability research and will be joining me on some penetration testing jobs that we recently got. All right, so Joel has built ISPs across the Caribbean, including, Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, Antigua, Curacao, some of Trinidad. So yeah, he doesn't just fix networks and provide solutions. He builds ISPs and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I can mention his company's name, but he could probably do that later if he wants to, right? But Joel is also for hire if you would like to hire him to fix your network and suggest solutions and so on.
I sell coconuts as well.
And he also sells coconuts, apparently, yes. As we'll see, he's certified in something along those lines. And we have my good friend Leslie, who has a bit of stage fright and will not be joining us until he's comfortable about it. So Leslie, he is part of CFSI, and he does a lot of data recovery, and he's a forensic analyst. He does a lot of mobile forensics. Leslie's a genius in his own right. But the nice thing about these guys and everyone here is that we don't just do pen testing and whatnot. We actually try to get away from the pen testing and cybersecurity a little bit, because for those of you all that are looking to get into this field, that is a day and night non-stop thing with pen testing and cybersecurity. It never ends. All right, so a little bit about us, for those of you all who don't know, right? Computer Forensics and Security Institute. One of the things we do is that we offer advanced cybersecurity training. Joel teaches also the CCNA, the Certified Cisco Network Associate, the Fortinet NSC Level 4. We do the Certified Ethical Hacker, Certified Threat Intelligence Analyst, so many I can't remember, the Certified Network Defender, the EC Council, Security Analyst. We have quite a bit of courses that we offer. For those of you that may be interested, you could head over to the website, which is just cfsi.co, and you'll see some of the training that we offer there. So if these websites perhaps pique your curiosity a little bit and you want to get certified in them, you could head over to the website, contact us about registering for courses. What we do a lot of is vulnerability assessments and penetration testing. We will introduce you all to something called red teaming, blue teaming, and purple teaming today as well. Some incident response, digital forensics, advanced networking, cybersecurity training, and well, CyberFence itself is a bit of cybersecurity mentoring, and we also do some consulting for companies. All right, so as far as subject matter experts go, we literally wrote the book on it, right? So Alex and I did a book on pen testing, and Alex is also the technical reviewer for those forensics books. Most of these guys here helped me on these books in some way or the other, and we'll probably do some more later on. So these books are from Pact Publishing. They just reached out to me and they asked me if I'd be interested in authoring some books, and I was like, sure. Not knowing how much of my life that would take from me. All right, so some of our clients over just this year alone would be Fujitsu Caribbean, Unipet, which is in the energy section. For some of you all are not from Trinidad, we have the payment systems, WePay, CarryPay. Recently this week, Maritime Financial hired us to do an assessment. We also do some work for Pure ICT, my good friends across in Curacao. I can't give the details of these assessments that we were hired to do for these companies, but they are all security assessments. That's the most I can say. And I know we have some employees of these companies here. So guys, thank you very much for joining us. And we do really appreciate your business. Thank you very much for making this happen, because the proceeds from the webinars and the security assessments in particular is what would allow us to pay for the GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar software to offer these courses and workshops for you. So thank you very much to our clients. Pretty happy that you all chose us. Right, so we also have some partners globally, actually. We have Cryptogenics right here in Trinidad. More information on Cryptogenics will come later this year. I'm recently partnering with my friend, Mr. Aaron Jamarath in the US, in New York. We have a company there called the Cyber Threat Management Solutions, which would effectively mirror all of the services that we run here at CFSI in Trinidad. My friend Umar Mohammed, he represents Foresight in Trinidad as well. And my good friends across in Curacao, Pure ICT. I always smile when I mention Pure ICT because they usually fly us across and have us do training and put us up at a really nice hotel from the beach. Well, prior to COVID, that was. But yeah, Curacao is a lovely place. If you'll have a chance to visit, please do. So today's agenda, we did an intro to CFSI and the team. The purpose of the CyberFence series, yeah, it is to try and get you all up to speed, up to par with things. We would like it if we could create some security engineers out of you all at the end of this, because ideally we would love to have this series run for at least 12 months, where we can have maybe close to about 12 to 24 webinars and workshops. And we want to have it in such a way that it will cover almost everything that you would see in a cybersecurity diploma or something like that, or full combined set of cybersecurity courses. All right, so I came up with this idea because my dad, and my late dad actually, he was a very generous guy. He was a teacher. My dad and my mom are teachers actually, and they're always helping students, especially students that couldn't afford stuff. And I just thought it was a great way to give back itself and kind of honor my dad's memory a little bit in the process too, because he used to always do this kind of stuff for students and people who just needed help. So collectively, this is our way of giving back, I guess, to the global community. So before we begin there, let me just tell these guys, yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this initiative and trying to help give back to the community out there. I really appreciate this. These guys are awesome. Very, very brilliant guys among us here. All right, so yeah, these are some of the things that we want to discuss with you all today. We have quite a few things, right? So Alex will be up first to just let you all know about the CFSI Discord group. So Discord is an app that you could download as well. And what we will be doing is we can actually communicate with each other there. So instead of having a WhatsApp group or Telegram group, we could share a lot more information across the Discord service. We could share all the links, all the PowerPoint slides, the videos, the recordings, Of course, I will be putting up a YouTube channel. I know I promised to get that done last week, but this week was a lot of work involved, a lot of meetings and prep for penetration tests and so on. But yes, by let's say by Monday, I should have all the Alex actually has to do some editing on it. And yeah, we'll upload it to YouTube and we will post it up on LinkedIn and social media. All right, so yeah, and then they will come with some cybersecurity fundamentals, followed by Jonathon. I'm a little bit scared to see Jonathon's presentation actually on open source intelligence, which is OSINT and social engineering. Johnny is one of the kings of social engineering. It's hard to put anybody past Johnny in social engineering. Alex is the guy, the go-to guy for pen testing. Johnny and Alex will now be working together, so I think the space-time continuum, the fabric of it may be destroyed between those two guys working together at a big four firm doing penetration testing. My good friend, or the security Hulk, as I like to call him, Joel Gooding, right? He will do a talk with you all on firewalls and network security. Joel is the go-to guy for anything routing, switching, and firewall related. Joel, please do this with your head instead, right? Yeah, he's a very modest guy. We're all pretty down to earth, normal guys. Y'all can reach out to us and email us or talk to us. You can message me on LinkedIn and stuff or via email. It's fine. Reach out to any of us. We'll try and give you all advice as best as we could. We will try to open up the floor for chat and questions, right? Feel free to type any questions in the chat. Hopefully I see them because the chat box area is pretty small on my screen here. And then lastly, it'll just be me doing a recap of everything and talking a little bit about forensics, incident response, blue teaming, purple teaming. So we just want to give an overall, like a top view of some of these things here, and we will provide some links where you all could go to sort of expand your knowledge on this as we go along. But remember, each one of these here will have their own workshops and their own webinars as we progress. So we want to actually just show you all a little bit of what we will be working our way up to starting from next month, because next month in particular, we would like to do a webinar. I would like to do two webinars next month. One will be on purple teaming, which we'll get to a little later. And I want another webinar with, I'm trying to get some guest speakers. Alex is trying to convince his boss, Anil, to, he is one of the executive people, senior executive people for Ernst & Young. And what I would like to do is have him join us on the panel and maybe give you all some advice. You know, if you're trying to apply for jobs in cybersecurity, maybe he can tell you all what to focus on, you know, give you some career guidance as well. And my good friend Julian as well, who is an IT manager for Agostini, a huge company here in Trinidad. They own like pretty much almost everything in Trinidad. I'm not sure. But yeah, I want to get these guys on a panel here with us so that they could give you all some great advice, and we could probably interact with them and see how best they could advise people either getting into the field or trying to get jobs in the field, especially in Trinidad, throughout the Caribbean, because Ernst & Young is an international company, right? I mean, that's one of the big four firms. When we talk about a big four firm, we talk about Ernst & Young, Price Waterhouse, KPMG, and Deloitte, I believe. Yeah, y'all could, fellas. Yeah, yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. Great. All right. So that's why I want to get Anil, who is one of the senior execs there, to try and give everyone some advice on where you might want to look or maybe where to put your focus on. All right. So yeah, brace yourselves. We have a lot of stuff coming up today, and in particular, brace yourselves for Johnny. So before we get started with anything today, I just want to put Alex here to just talk a little bit about this Discord channel and group that you all can join. Right, it is in the chat. So yeah, take it away, Alex.
Sure. So hey everyone. So just to facilitate the webinars and just to build a little community around the cybersecurity here locally, we've created a small Discord channel called CFSI. Shiva posted the link in the chat window, as well as you can see it on screen there if you're gonna type it all out. So what we'll do during the webinar, just to make things easier, if you since the chat window a little small on Shiva's side, what you could do is, if you're on Discord, post the question in the webinar channel, the webinar chat channel, and I'll kind of keep track of it. So at any point, if you have any questions on any of the topics that we talk about, I'll just grab it from there and ask the guys there one time. So yeah.
All right, so thanks for that, Alex. Yeah, so Discord, if you all have never heard about Discord, is a little server that Alex would have set up on his end. And it's a nice group because we could actually communicate with you all and send you all links, keep you all updated. So for example, when we are about to release the registration, right, which still blows my mind that 100 spaces went as quickly as I posted it in less than a day. All right, so we'll probably try to give you all a heads up there first, and it will always go onto the CFSI page on LinkedIn first of all. That's the first place I post it. All right, so you could probably just check back there or subscribe to the CFSI page on LinkedIn, and I will put the link to it in the chat as well when we proceed a bit into the evening. All right, or the night or the morning, wherever you all are. I know some people registered from Curacao, from the US, a couple of you from Canada, UK. So yeah, hi to everybody again. All right, great. So first up, right, we'll only take about maybe about 15 minutes each, right, to present. So we have Mr. Deodath Ganga, also known as Deo, also lovingly called Fish by his friends, right, who I said is a pen tester, lecturer, network engineer. And one of the things he's famous for saying is, in Trini, how it hang it swing, right? For those of you all who don't speak Trini or aren't fluent in Trini, that basically means it is what it is. So all right, so yeah, Dale, I will actually be controlling the slides for him and just change it so they will be just reading out for you all. All right, Dale, take it away.
Hey everyone. So as Shiva said, I only have probably a 15 to 20 minute window here. So I'm gonna try to get the fundamentals here of cybersecurity across as quickly as I can and as properly as I can as well. I take usually a 3 to 4 hour period to actually teach this, but I'll try my best. So the first thing we need to know is what is cybersecurity? So cybersecurity is actually the practice of protecting computers, mobile devices, servers, electronic systems, networks, data, as well as now human beings from malicious attacks. Cybersecurity is also known as information security or InfoSec, information assurance or IA, or simply as system security. The reason why cybersecurity is important is because organizations like the government, your corporate organizations, the military, medical organizations, financial institutions, or any organization now in the modern world, they all collect, process, and store an unprecedented amount of data and personal information on some sort of device or digital property. If this data were to be exposed, this could have very negative consequences. So a little history about cybersecurity. A slight point is cybersecurity began in proper in 1972 with a research project called ARPANET. The guys could correct me if I'm wrong. And ARPANET stands for the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, and it's actually a precursor to the internet. And ARPANET developed protocols for remote computer networking. So we have different types of cybersecurity as we see on the slide here. So we have application security, network security, cloud security, mobile security, and physical security. So in terms of application security, there are millions of different software applications and mobile applications available for users to download and install now. So when we have all these different choices available to us, we can't be 100% sure that all these applications are 100% safe. For example, most of the apps that we use on our cell phones are secured and work under rules and regulations of the Google Play Store or the iOS Store. But it is possible to go out to the internet and download third-party apps and install them on your mobile device. A lot of these apps pretend to be safe apps, but they can take your information and use the information for their own nefarious purposes. So in terms of application security, you should always ensure that you install software applications and your mobile applications from a trustworthy platform. Right? Network security. So network security, basically in network security, you try to guard your internal network against threats with the use of increased network security. One of the things people tend to do a lot is when they go out in public, they utilize these free Wi-Fi networks. So the free, maybe in cafes such as, you know, you go to Rituals, you go to Starbucks, you go to your malls and whatnot. But in doing so, you open up yourself to attacks because these free Wi-Fi networks aren't secure. There are guys sitting on this panel. If they were there at the same time as you, I wouldn't call any names. He'll probably be presenting second. If he was there, you'd probably find yourself in a lot of trouble, right? So I didn't say I was calling any names. So try avoiding using these free networks, people, because these free networks, they don't support any sort of security, right? On to our next point. So we see a cloud security. So cloud-based data storage has become an increasingly popular option over the past maybe 10 years, over the past decade. And this is because it's due to its ability to be accessed from virtually anywhere on the planet. And it utilizes enhanced privacy measures in the form of authentication. Now, in the midst of the worldwide pandemic that we're going through, a lot of organizations, as well as regular normal end users, regular people, have been forced to go through a digital transformation or digitization, because everyone has had been sent home, work from home, children have been sent home, school from home. People who did not have access to mobile devices or internet connected devices now have these connectivity devices, and it has opened up the entire world to a lot more cybersecurity attacks, which we'll talk about a little later on. Right, our fourth point, mobile security. The most common device that anyone would be using is a mobile device. We are probably all tethered to our hips by our mobile devices. You could see Jonathon is probably using his mobile device at the moment. So the thing with mobile device security, it entails making sure that your mobile device is up to date with the latest patches, with the latest firmware, that it contains antiviruses. Maybe you should look into getting a firewall for your mobile device. A lot of us use firewalls with our mobile devices, not because we're paranoid or anything like that, Shiva. Right? So yeah, mobile security has become increasingly important now in the modern world because of how we as human beings use it. Our last type of cybersecurity is physical security. Now, physical security to the layman isn't usually associated with cybersecurity. But physical security is very important in the cybersecurity world because if you don't physically secure your devices, and people like us get access to your devices, you might be in a world of trouble. There are devices out there such as USB rubber duckies, bad USBs. There's a certain device that I was actually a victim to called a porn pie, that a certain CFSI lecturer deployed physically on my device.
No weight of a mouse.
Nobody blamed anybody. All right, so you need to have physical security installed or available to you. Things like, you know, Physical locks, keys, physical keys, biometric locks, security guards, RFID cards, things like that. Because physical security, we as pen testers sometimes are tasked to break in physically to buildings, to server rooms. Jonathon is a master at doing this.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right, so yeah, physical security is very important in the cybersecurity world, just as much as all the other points I spoke about before.
Hey, Theo, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
In terms of firewalls for mobile devices, without giving out any brand names or anything like that, any particular features or terminology that they should be looking for?
Free.
That's it?
I mean, yeah. Me personally, I would say free because these paid firewalls they require monthly subscriptions, and they are very expensive to the regular person. I mean, me personally, I'm poor. I can't pay for these things. But look for firewalls that actually block access from the apps out to the internet.
I was going to say any firewall that you could get that could control like application.
Yes, once they could
accesses.
control at an application level.
Yeah.
And not just a general mobile device level, because applications could still bypass that and get out to the internet.
Someone else wanted to know about if you would recommend any particular manufacturer or vendor
for
same firewalls, mobile firewalls.
The one I use is called No Root Firewall.
Okay.
And it works pretty good.
Another one. Yeah, I'll put it in the chats.
All right, good. Yeah, Shiva, so you could actually go on to the next slide there.
Sure.
Right, so we have the importance of cybersecurity and as well as the challenges. Cybersecurity is important in any organization, no matter how big or small that organization is. Due to the advancements in technology and software across various sectors, the same sectors I spoke about, like the government, the military, financial institutions, health institutions, and whatnot, information is becoming more accessible through wired and wireless communication. So the importance of cybersecurity is to secure the data of these various organizations. And these organizations usually have highly or extremely sensitive information that can cause damage both to infrastructure and reputation of the organization. So we have some points here that we could look at. So the first one is cybersecurity incidents are on the rise. And this is a very true statement. The cybersecurity breaches and incidents have actually been increasing exponentially since the worldwide pandemic. We've been seeing lots and lots more ransomware attacks, phishing attacks on the whole. People always come to me, their Facebook has been hacked, their Instagram has been hacked, and they're asking me to help me, to help them, sorry. And I really can't do anything about it. Most of the time it's people clicking on links and giving out their credentials, their usernames and their passwords. Right, and one of the reasons why cybercrime is increasing, it's relatively cheap, it's fast, and it's really highly profitable compared to other types of crime, as in maybe physical crime, actually going in and trying to maybe rob somebody. I mean, these cyber criminals are extorting millions of dollars worth in usually cryptocurrency from these large organizations. The second point, damage is usually significant. Cybercrime can cost organizations millions of dollars in damages, whether it be physical damage, whether it be loss of digital property, or whether they have been paid ransoms, whether it be in cash or the usual cryptocurrency requests. It can also cause damage to the reputation of the organization, which I believe is actually more destructive than losing your infrastructure and using your actual money or your capital. It could also damage or compromise the ability to conduct business, and even compromise the physical health and safety of employees, customers, and clients. The next point, cybersecurity builds trust. It usually affects trust with your customers and your clients, but even your employees. So when people on the whole, they generally feel, they would usually feel that they can't trust an organization if they can't actually protect their private data, things such as their credit card information, their personal data. A lot of these companies have people's ID information. In the United States, they have things like social security numbers. And if a company can't properly secure and keep private this sort of information, they usually lose business. People begin to lose trust in the brand or the product or the service that they offer. Our next point, every organization has vulnerabilities. It does not matter what the organization is, how big they are, how big their security team is. Every organization has vulnerabilities. As organizations grow, as they evolve, as they merge with other organizations, over time, their networks, their systems, they get naturally more complicated, and things might slip through the cracks, as well as new vulnerabilities may come up with the advancements in technologies and software. So another thing with organizations is that end users or the employees themselves can often be the weakest link. It is my opinion that humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity. Again, I'm not calling any names. There's a certain lecturer here who can actually attest to the veracity of that statement. I think he's right there. Yeah. So yeah, organizations usually are required to put robust security and compliance protections in place. Basically, we should all care about cybersecurity, whether we be clients, whether we be shareholders, stakeholders, we be upper management or employees. Also, there's another point that I speak about at times that isn't there. Our identities actually are used to protect our data now. User identity, if you guys do any reading in the cybersecurity world, you can see that user identities now protect billions of points of data. So this is the data that we always transmit at work, data from the Internet of Things, from devices, from social media. As more and more of our data becomes digitized, the security of our identities is used to reduce the risk of cybercrime to organizations and to individuals alike. Yeah, Shiva, we can go on to the next slide there. And we have the types of cyber criminals. And I say cyber criminals, not people like us. We aren't cyber criminals, people. We might be hackers, but not cyber criminals. So the first one there is the
I think we might be ethical hackers. So
yes, that's what we are.
just to put that in there.
Or we're white hat hackers actually. So the first one is the most known one, the hackers or the cyber criminals in general. So the term hacker is used or may be used to refer to anyone with technical skills, just like us. However, it typically refers to an individual who would use his or her skills to achieve unauthorized access to systems or networks so as to commit crimes. We are actually given permission to do this, so we aren't considered criminals. We are basically paid to do criminal activities. Right, guys? Then we have the organized hackers. So organized hackers are criminal bodies or organizations of cyber criminals, hacktivists, terrorists, state-sponsored hackers as well. These organizations usually consist of highly skilled individuals or criminals that usually try to target organizations for control, for power, for wealth, And they usually are very subtle. No one knows who they are. They're very organized, and some of them even offer crime as a service. And they're usually very well prepared and very well funded as well. A good example of that might be the best known activist organization on the planet, which is called Anonymous. You guys can actually go research Anonymous. I know Shiva is an uber fan of Anonymous. We also have internet stalkers, and yes, when I say internet stalkers, actual stalkers, right? So internet stalkers would be people who maliciously monitor web activity of their victims or to acquire personal data. So this type of cybercrime, this is usually done through social media people. Or social networking platforms, or the use of malware through phishing attacks. And they usually track an individual's online activity with little or no detection. There will be probably a small presentation of this coming up very soon by a certain somebody here. But I always recommend people, social media, keep your business to yourself. A lot of people post every aspect of their life on social media. I have stopped doing that. I have one picture I use for all social media. If you were to look for me on the internet, you might just find that one picture. I don't post any facet of my life on social media because I know why. I know what these guys here are capable of. I know what I am capable of. A lot of people say, well, who am I? Why would people target me? Why would I be hacked? I only have $10 in my bank account. But yeah, we also have, I think Shiva, you actually went back a slide there, right?
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. We also have disgruntled employees. And disgruntled employees actually, they become hackers with a particular motive. And they would also commit cyber crimes. And it's really hard to believe that one of your employees could actually become a malicious hacker. But the thing with disgruntled employees is they are already on the inside of the network. They have already achieved what we try to take, what might take us months to achieve, or what would take a malicious hacker months to achieve. And they have access to pretty much everything inside of the network. While they may not have high-level access via their user IDs, they could have at their disposal things that I spoke of before, like your USB rubber duckies, your bad USBs, and your porn pies. Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah, Shiva, we could move again with the slides there. Rambling on a lot here. Yeah, and yeah, we've come to the last slide here. Vulnerabilities in information security, vulnerabilities as well as threats in information security. So vulnerabilities are weaknesses in a system that give threats the opportunity to compromise assets. So a vulnerability is a flaw in a system that would leave it open to potential attacks, whereas a threat would refer to a cybersecurity circumstance or event with the potential to cause harm by way of their outcome, right? All systems have vulnerabilities, no matter what people say, no matter how secure you believe you are, all systems have vulnerabilities. Even though technology is improving day by day, the number of vulnerabilities increase day by day, right? So we have our hardware vulnerabilities, software vulnerabilities. We also have network vulnerabilities and procedural vulnerabilities. So a hardware vulnerability is a weakness which can be used to attack system hardware, either physically or remotely. If your hardware devices have old firmwares on it, old versions, you have old versions of systems, old software, old devices, you have unprotected storage, whether it be unprotected virtually or unprotected physically. If your devices are unencrypted, etc., it would lead to a hardware vulnerability. We have our software vulnerabilities. So a software error, for example, could happen in development or in configuration. When executed, can violate the security policy. You could have unverified uploads. You could have things like cross-site scripting, unencrypted data, lack of input validation, amongst many other things. Too much to actually speak about at this moment. You have your network vulnerabilities. So a network vulnerability it's a weakness in a network that could either be hardware or software related. So you could have unprotected communication. You could have misconfigured firewalls. Everything encompassing the hardware vulnerabilities and the software vulnerabilities. You could have the use of malware or malicious software. You could have things like viruses, keyloggers, worms. You could have hardware keyloggers. You could have software keyloggers. You could have the same things I spoke about before. And you could also have social engineering attacks. Right, which brings us to our last point here, guys. I'm trying to go through this as quickly as possible, seeing that I've actually taken up a lot more time than I have thought. The last thing we want to speak about here is the procedural vulnerability. So a procedural vulnerability is actually a weakness in organizational operational methods. So for example, you have bad password procedures. So your password should follow your standard password policies. Bad training procedures. So employees should know which actions should be taken and what to do to handle security. For example, an employee should never be asked for any of their user credentials online. So employees should be made aware of social engineering and phishing attacks by the way of employee awareness training. All right, guys. So yeah, that is about it there. Unless you want me to go on, and I can actually take up this entire webinar. Yeah, I've been bored off the stage.
The
Thanks a
slides
lot
are
for that,
streamed,
Shiva.
so thanks, Dale. Thanks. No, it's okay that you went across the time limit a little bit, but that's fine. That was some pretty good points there. I think one thing that I just want to mention there, if I go back here a little bit to Dale's slides, yeah, you see disgruntled employees. Disgruntled employees, to me, as a professional forensic investigator and pen tester, but more along the lines of the forensics, your disgruntled employees are pretty much your biggest threats. I think about 10 years ago, it was said that they did a study or survey that said that about 75% of employees within an organization are disgruntled, or they may have some sort of falling out with management, with directors, whatever you have there. And I mean, this goes out more to management, right? Management people, they have to be a little more aware of the fact of how they treat people and how they speak to people inside organizations. Even the tone that you take when you email people as well, right? Because think about it, even us as penetration testers, and you remember a penetration test would actually simulate a real life hack on your organization, right? Most of the time, we are hired to get into the organization from the outside. And it's a lot of work that goes into that, because as Dave was talking about with firewalls and stuff, as Joel will talk about more on firewalls later on, to bypass firewalls and stuff, and intrusion protection systems are pretty difficult, depending on, you know, what Dale mentioned, again, depending on the firmware that you might even have, if you have older firmware and stuff like that. But if we were, for example, to get a rubber ducky flash drive, or any flash drive that we put malware on, leave it in a car park, or drop 50 of them across the car park, someone is going to take that and plug it inside the work machine. Now, we're assuming that this is in an office type environment, but even from home, remember, a lot of people are working from VPNs. So suppose we decide to infect one person's machine with a specific type of malware. I mean, God forbid it be ransomware, and they join the VPN, but you don't have security built into your firewalls and stuff there. It could very well spread across the entire organization if no type of security is implemented. So work from home security and physical security are actually two completely different things. It doesn't matter if you have firewalls and so on, because remember, a lot of people are using their own personal devices. So just a couple things to think about, especially where disgruntled employees are concerned. If you have any managers out there, please treat your staff a little bit nice, to say the least. Now I bring you all to a very scary presentation and an even scarier presenter, Johnny himself.
No, no.
Right? Johnny's a pen tester lecturer. He's an absinthe aficionado. If you're not sure what absinthe is, now might be a good time to look it up. Right? And his words to live by, at least for this week, was blame Alex. And that's what we usually do anytime something goes wrong. We blame Alex because Alex is pretty good at getting himself out of trouble. So it's kind of easy to blame Alex there. Alex is presenting a little bit later after Johnny. All right, so yeah, take it away, Johnny.
All right, yeah, so I'll be talking to you guys about social engineering and how you actually connect the dots using OSINT. I mean, this is one of my strong points. I'm not really, the exploitation guy is really Alex, so that's why I say blame Alex for everything. So when we talk about open source intelligence, we're actually talking about, this actually comes into what Shiva and Dave were actually talking about. You have internal pen tests and external pen tests. When you're doing an external pen test, this is where you're really going to be leveraging your OSINT skills a bit more than on the internal side, because obviously if you're doing an internal pen test, you're going to have all the information, all the IP addresses and whatnot. Again, we'll go into that a bit later on, just to keep things going. What we'll actually be using today, I'll be using a method called Google Docking, which is pretty much just using search engines on the whole, but just we call it Google Docs. And as you can see at the bottom, we have a very small subset of what search operators you could actually use to leverage or manipulate the search results that you get back from Google or Bing or Yandex. This goes on. So in title, site, and file type. I won't go in just to keep things going, but as we showed on screen, you guys could actually see it in action. So yeah, you can go to the next slide. All right, so using the information that we gathered from the OSINT phase, this is where I would say, most attackers, most advanced persistent threats, can cause the damage, as you all can see there with the example I have up on screen. Just say that, we find a confidential PDF that's not supposed to be on the internet, but by using Google Docs, you find that document, and from there, you have an internal company letterhead. You could craft your own emails from that to make your phishing campaign look even more convincing. Right? And I'll actually show this off. Yeah, Shiva, I'll show you under the bus a little bit. So that'll be part 2 of the presentation. So I have one on Deo, I know where he ran off to, and one on Shiva actually. So nice. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. I think I'll just show some tools here that we'll use. Yeah, so again, we'll go into more depth with these as we go along in the actual full workshops, right? So something that people don't actually think about when they're looking for information. This third point, job postings. I have seen companies put out pretty much their entire infrastructure out there in a job listing. They'll say, oh yeah, you need to have CCNA and all those things. And then it'll actually say proficient in this router or this switch or whatever it is. You're just giving away information to an attacker. Somebody like Alex, right? I mean, guys like that, they could wreak havoc with that. Right? We'll actually look at some map data and actually doing physical recon, as Dave was actually saying as well. Physical security is a big part of it. You can actually use these last 4, Sniper, Red Hawk, Maltigo, and PIMIs. We'll actually use PIMIs in the demo coming up. I'll actually show you guys where Dave was saying that he actually doesn't have a bunch of pictures. Well, yeah, I'll show you how that doesn't actually work sometimes, right? And in the actual social engineering tools, the first and biggest tool, this one up here, your brain, right? And again, later on, we'll get on to using SET, which is the social engineer toolkit, where you could actually create fake websites. If you ever wondered how, if anybody is actually with Scotiabank, I think Scotiabank is the biggest offender of this. Not Scotiabank, obviously, but they are the ones that I've gotten about 4 or 5 emails from fake Scotiabank emails and websites. We'll actually take a look at Wi-Fi. Well, probably not take a look at Wi-Fi Fisher, but that's pretty much, if you guys ever heard about a device called Pineapple, Wi-Fi Pineapple from Hack5, that's pretty much what's going on. And the Metasploit payload creator, where you could actually create, well, to keep it as simple as possible, you could actually create reverse shells, and bind them to different executables, PHP files, etc. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it there, Shiva. You could send the screen over to me and I'll just go with the demo.
Yeah, ready for you to be the presenter, right?
Yeah.
1 second. All right, there we go. Go ahead and yeah, you're free to share your screen.
Just to get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Just had to do that. Right, so 80 something people, sorry, just had to do that. Right. So we'll take our
Johnny, 1 sec, right?
Yeah.
So guys, this goes without saying that this is for educational purposes, right?
Exactly.
We'll
Well, I mean, I won't show too much
right there. And Johnny would actually be doing a full entire presentation on this. This is just to show you a little bit about social engineering and OSINT, which is the open source intelligence. Yeah, sorry about that, Johnny.
This is just pretty much to pique you guys' interest in it and see what you could actually get just from Google and stuff. Right, so I hope everyone could actually see my screen.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Let's show Deo under the bus first, right? So we'll just do. So I'm looking at this from the, what's that? Do you call that a knife? Come on, man. We're looking at this from the point of view as a malicious attacker, right? So I find out that you did me something or do whatever it was, right? So we come to Google. First things first, main thing that pops up, we get a LinkedIn page. Now I'm not signing or anything, right? So I'm trying to make this as realistic as possible. So we could see that Deo works at Fujitsu. All right then, cool.
Yeah,
so we don't really get anything else. We're not really. Yeah, and we see how long he's actually been there, a year, and he's been at CFSI for 3 years and more. Your whole boy, right? And oh god, look at, I thought Shiva was bad, but look at, all right, let me not look at that because I'll just feel ashamed at my little degree and see each other. So, right, so again, starting from there, we had no information on Deo. Now we have a place of work. Now again, we could dig into this even more, use Google Maps. Actually, in our CTIA class, we did a full profile on, well, I won't call the company's name, but we did a full profile on someone working at a big company down here, and the sort of things that we were able to dig up on Google Maps alone was ridiculous.
For educational purposes.
Yeah, just to show the students what kind of things you can actually find. Again, because remember, we haven't done anything wrong here. We're just looking and building a profile on someone. So again, we didn't find anything much. We saw where he works. All right, cool. No pictures or anything like that yet. So let's just actually change this up a bit. We use our site operator. And let's see if we could find Deo on Facebook. Right, so I don't think this is him. All right, and so we have this post here. I'm not too sure if I have to log in. Okay, right, so. All right, so we see a tag here, Deodath Ganga. And because I'm not logged into Facebook, I don't think you'll actually see too much information. So from this, again, this is information disclosure. I'm pretty sure whoever they was related to this person won't see. Right? Well, again, you could see here. So assume this is Deo's sister, right? So this is a good start. And what we could actually get from this as well, we worked in the Toko area today. Now this was July 23rd. That was about a month ago.
Last month.
He
Yeah.
works at Fujitsu. Why is he in the Toko area at that point? Again, this is just how you should be thinking, or how advanced persistent threats actually think. What does Fujitsu actually have in Toko? Now let's just say Deo posts on Facebook a lot, and you see that every month, around the 20 something of each month, he's in Kumana. He was, yeah, Kumana Toko. Why is he there? Right? You could start putting those things again, connecting the dots as to why he's going there and what he's doing. Use your map data as well to see, what exactly he's going there for. So we didn't actually get a picture or anything out of it yet. So we see Taste of Trinbago. All right, so let's actually show you guys, you can use YouTube for OSINT purposes, right? So let's just go, was it Taste of Trinbago? All right, so same girl again. So it's a YouTube channel. It's actually Taste of Trin, but we see nothing here. Here's the interesting part about YouTube. We saw that she actually put brother, right? You could actually put that term in. Okay, well, this is not it. Maybe here, and as Shiva just mentioned, his nickname is Fish. So again, let's just go with, we didn't know that. Let's check out this video. Just fast forward. There we go. So you're trying to hide. We got your picture. All right, so no hiding. Now, what you can do, I'll show you guys another site called PimEyes. Let me bring that up. What PimEyes does is actually using artificial intelligence to do facial recognition. This is not like a Google image reverse search where if you put this image, it's going to look for like people with black t-shirt with, what is that, lime or yellow or something. It's not just going to look for that. You could actually, the audience could actually try this out, go to PimEyes, upload a photo of yourself, and it will search the internet for pictures of you, not just pictures that look similar to you. Right? But again, we'll just gloss over that right now. So you could actually use a tool like, what is it I use? I use one called ShareX, and just, where's my, grab that face, right, and upload it to PimEyes. See where actually this face comes up across the internet. But what you can actually get from, again, this is just my way of thinking how I go about building a profile. If you actually keep going about, let's just see if you can see anything, right? With YouTube as well, if anybody has like a 4K display or 1440p, crank up your resolution. And now, again, this is just for demonstration purposes, right? You could actually pick information from this image or this video, right? So you can actually see, looks like a New York plate. So maybe somebody went to New York recently, maybe Deo, I'm not too sure. You could see he loves mom, right? And again, going back to the map data, let's just say that these highlights here weren't as blown out as this. And maybe we could pick out a landmark in the background. Let's just say a mosque or a church or something like that. Go into it, go into Google Earth now, and try to find that landmark. You know that he lives next to that landmark, you have his address. Right, so And again, you could just keep going through all these things and see if you can actually find anything else. Did my screen freeze or something?
No, I just blinked for a little bit.
Okay, because I think, what's going on here? My second screen froze, I think.
See now a picture
let
of
me
the
just-
blender on YouTube.
Yeah, because this entire thing is, but hold on. Yeah, it's not, let me just throw this back to you and you could probably just maybe send it back to me. Not too sure what happened there.
Sure.
Still seeing the screen?
Just now, let me just switch to my screen for a sec, and then let me go back to you. All right, so it's back on you. So you can share your screen now.
I think it was Brave browser that just crashed there or something.
You hacked the browser. Wow. Well
Yeah.
done, sir.
Alex, what is he doing?
Blame Alex.
All right, hang on, I'm not too sure. Let me just check this
Discord
task.
close
What was that?
it. Discord close it.
Yeah, sure.
But while you're doing that, just to tell everybody, a long time ago, not a couple years ago, maybe up to a decade ago, there was a serial killer in some part of the States, and when he was in court and stuff, I think they wanted to try to get Google to actually go to court during that case too, because what he said was that he stalked the entire family using Google Maps, using the same OSINT, right? And remember, guys, OSINT stands for open source intelligence, and all of this is open source intelligence because we're using tools that are publicly available. All this information is publicly available. So what the serial killer said is that he did his own type of research on OSINT, and he was able to stalk them, and unfortunately he murdered I think it was a few of them, well, if not the entire family. So like they were saying from before too, there is such a thing like cyber stalking, right? Which you have to be very careful about the information that you put out there. All right, so let me hand over back to Johnny again.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much almost finished, but I was just looking at, okay, yeah. So putting up things like this again, you could build a profile from people just by being as harmless as this is. You can actually see that this brand of oil from PriceSmart. So again, that's another thing that we could add to the profile. He shops at PriceSmart, right?
That is true.
And again, we could try to work out whatever schedule. Maybe he goes to PriceSmart once a month or once a week. Again, this is the kind of danger where, again, I'm pretty sure when your sister put up this, she didn't think about it, right? So it's harmless, but again, in the wrong hands, the information like this can prove, again, as Shiva was saying, you could put together a whole lot of information. Let me just go back a bit. And did it crash again? I hope not. So let's just say there was a backdoor. Again, we're just assuming here. What if we saw a keypad over here and that had a brand name on it, or a camera? We could then use my favorite website, Shodan, and try to zero down on this camera. Maybe there's an IP camera system. Who knows? Maybe there was careless enough to use the default logons, which we may or may not have discovered a few times already. Again, educational purposes. And switch the cameras off, stop recording, delete all the footage. Again, you have to think like a thief in order to, again,
Correct.
for operational security, as you say at home. All right, so that'll be it for Deo. I'll stop there. Got a little bit more, but I won't scare you. Let's see. I think Brave froze again.
That's good.
All right, let's just.
You don't have to do my profile. I mean, you could
No,
skip.
we have to do it.
Uh,
Yeah, why not?
Awesome.
Brave is just going crazy.
Sure.
And so I won't show the whole thing, right? But I pretty much found this document.
Yeah. So.
All right, so pretty sure Shiva wouldn't have given this out to anybody.
Not yet, but thank you.
Right. Oh wait, no, is this the, no, wrong one,
That's
sorry.
that's our document that we're watching right now.
Okay, it's this one. I had to move the, so I'm pretty sure you didn't think that this was out there on the internet, right?
Well, not bothering me. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but again, this is what I get to. So again, Shiva said it's not going to bother him, right? But let's just
But
say,
you're right though, because I didn't actually put that up on the internet when I did the presentation. I don't know if somebody put it up or something, but I actually didn't put that up on the internet.
Yeah. So exactly. So it wasn't any fault of him, but again, the way and who you actually share information with
Blame
is
Alex.
how you can actually get yourself. Yeah, again, this had to be Alex, nobody else. Right. So again, this is a full PowerPoint presentation. You can actually edit it and whatnot. So let's just say that this logo, yeah, you want to do a phishing attack on somebody, copy this logo off. Let's just say pretty sure Shiva had, what, about over 2,000 or 3,000 students in his lifetime, maybe more, right? What if we craft convincing, again, by using these things, just say it had like a watermark that is only in Shiva's documents. Take that out, craft your email saying, hey, we'll be doing webinars here on $25 a head to secure your spot. Send that out to 5,000 people. Let's just say 10% get backs to you. You know, that's what, like $5,000 or $8,000, something like that. I failed math, so. Right. But again, same thing what they was talking about. You send out a phony phishing email like this. You demand, well, not really demand in this case. You're actually going to just say, oh, hey, well, send me this and I'll keep your name safe for one of the 100 spaces that we have. 100 by 25. You just made $1,000 by doing nothing. And again, you're not going to send that to a web, a bank account. You're going to use cryptocurrency these days, and yeah, you just got free money for nothing. You can just by switching around on the net. So I mean, I hope this sheds some lights for you guys. I mean, just to get the gears spinning, and this is just very small about what you could actually do there. Showdown, there's Intel X. I mean, it is a lot of things out there. That's, I mean, well, when we actually get to that webinar, that actual workshop, you all will see a bit more of this. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'll hand it off to Shiva and I think Alex next.
Sure. Hey, thanks for that, Johnny. Yeah, just to add to that too, with the amount of information that we have publicly out there, I'm sure everybody would have known about that Facebook issue. What was the name of it? Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
Where they thought about, people selling information. But the thing is, all of that information that was disclosed, that was public information.
Yeah,
that's what
fine print.
Yeah, you could find all this information publicly. We have a webinar coming up where we will show you all how to find, of course, for educational purposes, I cannot stress this enough, devices out there on the internet, web cameras. You could find web cameras out on the internet. You could find servers, you could find laptops, you could find gas station pumps. Lots of different things out there on the internet, and all of this is using free tools and websites that we're talking about here. So there isn't any hacking that's involved. A lot of people live on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram. You post pictures of your food. I know one of us in particular in a black striped hoodie, whose name I will not call, he takes pictures of every single thing that he eats. So it's, be careful about the information that you put out there, especially when you tag yourselves at certain locations and so on, especially if you have kids or younger ones in particular, and they're always on TikTok. TikTok is not safe, right? I know a lot of people that are always on TikTok and stuff, but TikTok is not a safe app. A lot of these apps, they read your information from your phones and collect this data. All right, so thanks for that very much, and a little bit scary presentation there, Johnny. Good example, good making use of Deo there. Deo, thanks for volunteering. So now we carry you all to Mr. Alex Samm, one of my very dear and close friends, and as his life saying is right there, he's here for a good time, not a long time, because we don't know when we might go, right? So just enjoy today, however it comes. So Alex, go ahead, take it away, bro.
Hey, hi, evening everyone. So thanks for taking the time to join us for this interesting workshop, the first workshop that we're going to have at CFSI, and hopefully we get to see more of you in the upcoming workshops and webinars. I know some of you are previous students, so thanks for joining back again. I don't know why you'll come back to see us anyway, but thanks for joining us nonetheless. And yeah, Shiva, take it away. Take the next slide.
Sure.
So what I'm going to talk to you today about is penetration testing and red teaming. Now, Theo mentioned previously a few things about cybersecurity, like things like application testing and vulnerability assessments and network testing and all of these interesting terms, right? And Shiva has mentioned before things like blue teaming and red teaming and purple teaming. So you may be confused onto what all of these fancy terms actually means and what does it entail and things like that. So a quick definition of penetration testing, right? So penetration testing is basically you have a professional coming into your organization to do a holistic assessment of your security, right? This typically it's more planned out in terms of you look at your applications, you look at your networks, you look at your environment, you look at your people, your processes, all these different things you will look at. But it's usually done in a shorter period of time, meaning a pen test can be done within a month to 4 months, granted the scope, right? What's the difference with that with that and a red team? Well, a red team is just like penetration testing. However, it's more targeted and it does more of a simulated real-world attack, meaning almost no one knows except the IT manager or head of IT knows that a red team assessment is going on, right? Penetration testers generally they could tell anybody that it's going on. It could be that it's a black box test, what is known as a black box test, where only key people know. It could be a white box where everyone knows. It could be any of those. A red team assessment is always a black box, hands down. No one knows about it except who needs to know about it. So it's always a scenario of the adversaries being the red team versus everybody else, right? Red teamers, when you look at a typical, before I jump to that, penetration testing teams could be done with 1 or 2 people. For example, where I work at EY, our penetration testing team right now is just 2 of us. But I have been on engagements on my own where I conduct the entire engagement by myself with no assistance. Run a red team assessment, however, you need a team because the scale can be so large and so complicated. You need a team to help you out. And that team, typically, I've seen some teams away where it's made up of everyone from different facets of different work industries, not just IT, right? So it all depends on the scope of the engagement you're doing. So, for example, I have seen engagement teams where they hired ex-military because the physical assessment required jumping things like fences into high secure environments and all these different things, picking locks and all these crazy things. And that's what red teamers do, right? So you as an organization, which one do you actually choose? Well, that depends, right? It depends on what you need done for your organization. And the key analogy that a lot of people use to describe penetration testing versus red teaming is like choosing between pirates versus ninjas, right? Penetration testers are like pirates; they're just ready to pillage and burn everything and go. Ninjas are more coordinated and they focus and they pick their targets specifically. So while a penetration testing team may look at your entire organization, external assets, internal assets, the people, the red teamers would be like, so how do I get from point A to point B? And they will focus on that one thing for a while. And if they don't make any ground with that, they will jump to the next thing until they find one way in. When they get that way in, then they move to the next level. It's like, okay, just picture like one of those movies that you see where it's like a heist going on and they're planning out a heist. It's the same exact thing a red team does. So that's how you would go about making a decision. Do I need a holistic overview of my entire security platform? Or do I need to actually simulate a real world attack against my company and determine if it's secure or not? Hope that's clear for everyone. Shiva, can you jump to the next one? Right, so reasons why you may be doing a penetration test. One of the main reasons why organizations would do a penetration test is a legal and regulatory requirement. For example, banks, financial institutions, insurance companies, anybody that handles credit card information. It's a regulatory requirement that they must have a penetration test done. Right? Once you handle credit card information, and even if it's just a pass through, a credit card vendor may require you to meet some sort of requirement, right? And also for legal purposes, depending on the country you're living in, it may be required that you do some sort of pen test or vulnerability assessment, right? Penetration testing typically is made up of 5 phases. So that's one thing to remember as well. So it's reconnaissance, like what Jonathon was showing you before with the OSINT and all of that. That's where that will come into play. Then you would do things like vulnerability scanning and assessments, where you determine what the vulnerabilities are in the system and the people as well, and if it can be exploited and how it can be exploited. And then you would actually go about exploiting those vulnerabilities that you find, and you would try to maintain that access. So maintaining access would be things like planting those backdoors, like little viruses, escalating privileges where you have an administrator account, and things like that, right? And the last thing is COA, cover your assets or cover your tracks, right? That's basically the 5 rules that happen in a penetration test, the 5 stages in a pen test, right? It does require some application testing knowledge. It's not mandatory, but part of penetration testing means you would test applications like web apps, especially since it's becoming so commonplace now for all applications to essentially have a web interface for itself, not just a desktop app. Take, for example, Discord, that what we're using now. Discord has a desktop app, there's a mobile app, and there's a web version of it as well. So all of that, as a pen tester, you need to kind of have a knowledge of it. Penetration testing also references some sort of framework typically. So what we will do as an organization, as a pen testing group, we will come into your organization and evaluate your security against what you have defined, right? So for example, if you have weak passwords, then we'll say, well, listen, your policy says your characters length, your complexity should be, let's say, 12 characters, but we break your password in, let's say, and we found passwords in Active Directory with 6 characters. So clearly, you're not aligned to your policy. So things like that we would typically do in a penetration test. And lastly, programming skills would help, but it's absolutely not necessary when you're doing a pen test, right? On the red teaming side, however, red teaming incorporates everything in the penetration testing side, but in greater detail, in much greater. You get way more granular in your testing. Key example is going back to the web application testing. In a web app test, for a penetration test perspective, you may use tools like OWASP and Burp Suite to actually do your evaluation of a web application, and that will have its general testing that it does. In a red team, you would actually break apart all these headers and packets that are sent in the communication between websites and the backend, and actually dissect those headers and dig in and manipulate those things in way more detail than you would typically do in a penetration test, right? So a penetration test, more or less, you could say, is a general coverage. Like I think I've said that a lot for now. It's a general coverage of your entire security profile as an organization, right? Red teams must work as a team. There must be a few of you involved in this thing because of the sheer scale that a red team can take on, right? Physical security. So as part of the red team, most likely you're going to have to deal with some sort of chains. You know how we like to use chains to lock our gates here regionally. Some chains, some locks may be involved, maybe a camera or two. So you need to have an understanding of physical security in, again, greater detail than penetration testing, because in a pen test, you're not expected to rewrite firmware of a card reader. However, in red teaming, you are required to gain access to the building somehow. So if that requires rewriting the code of the card reader, then you need to rewrite the code for the card reader. Yeah, so that is the big differences between the two. And of course, because you need to do that rewriting, some sort of development skills is mandatory for a red team. Again, because it's team oriented, you could get away with one person being specialized in development, one person specialized in social engineering, one person specialized in Active Directory testing maybe, right? So you could get away with that, but everybody should be able to do almost everything inside of the penetration testing methodologies. So Shiva, next one. I think it will be my last slide. So some things to remember. Compliance should never be used as a measure of your organization's security effectiveness. So this is something I encounter a lot, where organizations only do the pen test or vulnerability assessment because it's required of them from a compliance perspective. Again, going back to the bank analogy, if you have to process credit cards, it's required by PCI, the same body that authorizes you to process credit cards, to have a vulnerability assessment done every 6 months, or whenever there's a major change to your network, right? What a lot of people do is that they use that as when that pen test is done, they use that as their means to say, right, because we have done this, we are secure. But there are lots of flaws with these things. For example, anybody knows what the PCI password requirement says? PCI password requirement says you need a minimum of 7 characters, right? And it does not have to be complex. It has to be letters and numbers. That is what PCI requires, right? That is what they say. Exactly. And numerical and alphanumeric characters that make up your password could be cracked in some of the most oldest hardware crack that pretty quickly, right? And that is a PCI requirement. The ISO 27000 standard does not define a password requirement, right? GDPR does not define a password requirement. And for those of you who know NIST requires, I think, is a minimum of 8 to 10 characters for your password, but it must be complex, meaning it must be alphanumeric with special characters. It must be changed within a certain period of time. They have a lot more defined around their policy, around their framework, right? So the problem is organizations use these compliance to justify their security, which is not accurate. Never use compliance to say you're secure. That's a bad practice that I've always seen. If you want to use compliance, compliance is your groundwork. That ensures that you have everything in place to make your environment secure, right? And next thing to consider is time frame. How quickly you need to get this done. Pen tests are usually quicker than the red teaming, right? Red teaming is not so common here within your region. Penetration testing is very common within your region, right? So that's usually 3 to 4 months of pen test is usually done. You also need to consider if you want it done in a production environment versus your testing environment, right? So it's another thing to take into consideration, particularly when it comes to web application testing. Would you like, because a lot of times organizations cannot accurately replicate their production environment in their test environment. I've seen that too many times while doing testing. Consider doing a stress test and denial of service, because that's a real threat in today's world. A lot of organizations do not actually understand or know how much traffic their applications can handle. And one way to understand that is just performing a stress test and a denial of service attack against your devices. Consider your user awareness as well, and consider if you don't have in your organization some sort of user awareness program to improve your security of your organizations. Like Deo was saying in his presentation, the weakest link in any security evaluation is the people itself. And honestly, Johnny will tell you, and in my testing, we have always targeted individuals first to gain some sort of access into the environment. And lastly, my last point in closing out everything is have a plan for when the testing is completed. When you get that pen test report at the end, which I think Shiva said we might do, Johnny was be willing to do a presentation on reporting, I think, for you guys.
Not at all. Well,
We can nominate Johnny, that's fine.
I decline that position.
I was actually present when Johnny volunteered himself for that.
You see, so the eyes have it.
I'm not hearing anything, you know.
Just to add to what Alex was saying, guys, usually a secure password is 15 or more characters, by the way. and it's 15 or more characters that have, it's a complex password. So, you know, uppercase, lowercase, alphanumeric, symbols. I mean, it is a pain to remember a password that is that long, but that's just how it is. I know this webinar was only supposed to go till 7:30, but we have Joel and myself up afterwards. So if you want to bear with us and at least go till 8, so we'll be here presenting. I'm blaming Deo and Alex for this one, not just Alex alone this time. Deo and Alex can blame. All right, so yeah, next up, our good friend Joel. All right, Joel is a vulnerability researcher. He's a network solutions architect, and he is a professional coconut chopper, a certified PCC.
Yep.
Right. Joel is a pretty big. Actually, Joel and Johnny are both pretty big Star Wars fans. I mean, I know about Star Wars. I'm a fan of Darth Vader and stuff, but I don't know if I could sit down and watch a whole marathon.
Blasphemy.
Boy, wanted them, boy.
So
I
yeah.
don't know.
All right. So yeah, let me hand you all over to Joel now, and yeah, Joel, you take it away, man.
Okay, well, thanks for that. I have -2 minutes, so yeah. Let's see what we can do. All right, so I'll try to make this as quick as I can. What I'm going to try and speak about and focus on is more on the infrastructure side of things. The guys that came before me, they are all crack shots at the offensive security, the red team and the purple teamings, right? So these guys are heavy hitters, and I'm trying to absorb as much and learn from those guys as much as I can. So I'm going to talk a little bit more on the infrastructure side of things and why we need to take a look at some of the finer points of infrastructure security. So it's not just about firewalls and network security, but we need to take a deeper look and to really understand the infrastructure and how those points translate into security. So we're going to talk mainly about a couple of things. Firstly, you cannot defend what you cannot see, right? Understanding the full topology, come to the understanding that firewalls are not silver bullets. And then lastly, how do we go about understanding the traffic flow and protocols and why these are necessary, right? Let's go. You can move forward. Man, Shiva blanked me, yes. Hey. Man, is Dossie Doss on it? So yeah, so because I last see those things out.
I think Alex asked Shiva.
Well, yeah, rule one.
It wasn't me this time. I swear it wasn't me this time.
I still gotta go in the grocery. It's close 8 o'clock.
I believe we're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, probably because still
He
on.
disappeared.
Wasn't me.
Had to be in my presentation, everybody. Everybody else get through.
A man saying in Discord, blame Flo. we used to, honestly, we used to blame Flo.
And I have
We
the
switched from
worst.
Flo.
I have the worst location because I had to sit in this room by myself with the air conditioning. And the light ain't even showing properly in my face looking.
Sorry about that. You need to change the slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shiva, sure.
Yeah. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
Boop, boop. I have -10 more minutes. All right, so the first point here is you actually cannot defend what you cannot see. And it comes without saying, right? You can't defend what you can't see. And what do we mean by this? So in looking at security, and in particular looking at the infrastructure and understanding where security applies in this infrastructure, we have to take a little step back here, right? How do we know what is the right move to make when it comes to network and infrastructure security? And we usually have to make decisions based on the infrastructure that we have to work in, right? Now, how can we make decisions where we have no idea what's going on? And think about the movies that we see. We all know when we're watching TV, we're watching movies and stuff. And in those movies, we have scenes with war or battles, right? Think about any movie that you see with a battle or a war scene and have a whole bunch of people fighting in the battlefield, right? In those scenes, where are the generals? Where are the captains? Where are they standing? All right. You usually see that when the movie shows them, they are usually standing on top of a hill or they're overseeing the battle in some way. They're at a height advantage point because they need to be able to see the entire battlefield. They need to see the entire chessboard and to see where the pieces are moving on the chessboard so that they can strategize, coordinate, and give orders effectively. Because without having a full picture, you cannot see the opportunities in terms of your strengths and your weaknesses. How do you know when it's time to move this piece over here? How do you know when it's time to mitigate this? How do you know when it's time to upgrade this side of the network? How do you know it's time to deal with this server infrastructure? Can we include some firewalls here? Do we need to expand switches over here? Do we need some routers over here? What do we need? And you can't be able to see that without having the full picture. And we'll address this in the next slide. But the third and the point and is a term that we have here is that you can't fight blind, right? You're not gonna fight blind. And so that you need to be able to see what is happening in the infrastructure and have that full picture of the topology, which brings us to the next slide. Understanding your full topology, right? So what is understanding your full topology? So your topology is just a term for having a properly detailed map of your entire infrastructure, right? think about an actual map, right? A map, like a real old printed physical map, but nobody's had that anymore. So think about it like Waze, except for network environments, right? So you need to have an actual map. And what does a map show? A map shows where you are, right? And where you want to go. You have to travel along the actual road and say, okay, well, I'm going to this junction. I'm going to turn left on this road. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to turn over here and I'm going to get to my destination. That's how maps work, right? They show you the full architecture, or they show you the full topology. And in the same way, we need to understand our infrastructure like that, because we need to understand all components at every level. We need to understand your access layer, which is your switching layer, the part of the infrastructure that connects your end user systems. We need to understand your distribution and your core, or your collapsed core switching and routing. We need to understand the security requirements. And I'm not just talking firewalls, we'll get to that after as well. We need to understand how the environment connects to any data center or co-location that you may have. We need to understand cloud requirements. Cloud is a huge requirement right now in infrastructure networks and enterprise systems, and it's driving a lot of the infrastructure security. A lot of these applications and systems are moving to the cloud, so it's imperative that we understand these cloud requirements. And lastly, connectivity. Now, there are whole types of connectivity. There's ISP connectivity for broadband, there's DIA for dedicated internet access, there's private metro, there's MPLS, layer 3 VPNs, layer 2 VPNs. How do these connections work? What is the inherent security risks of these connectivity, right? How do they connect our sites together? How are our sites speaking to each other? So that you have to have that full architecture topology map. One of the very first things that I like to do when approaching or getting ready for an exercise, ask anybody, the very first thing that comes out of my mouth is, let me draw it. You have to draw it. Without drawing your topology, you will never have a full understanding of your architecture. So after you actually take a pen or pencil and draw it out, load up your Visio or whatever program that you have, that you could actually draw out your topology, because having a documented full topology paints the picture for yourself and whoever are your network and security administrators to help you fully understand your architecture. So it's only when you have a full understanding of your topology and your architecture can you make proper decisions based on these requirements. You move to the next slide, please. This leads to the conclusion, and this is one of my favorite points here, that when we're talking about infrastructure security or network security, everybody's be like, yeah, boy, we have a firewall. Get through. That's it. You know, pack up shop. And that cannot be the furthest thing from the truth, right? Firewalls are not silver bullets. Not because you have a firewall in place. I mean, that's it, right? And I've seen infrastructure running on pretty old firewalls, right? Security and the architecture is an evolution process. It's a fluid, it's a dynamic system, and it's changing with time all the time, right? So it's always changing, it's always upgrading. New applications are being invented every day. Can your architecture see your applications? Can it see the types of traffic? Can it see what are the protocols being used? Can it segment users? Can it segment by schedules? Can it have visibility into your layer 2, layer 3 protocols and controls, right? So not because you have a firewall, that doesn't mean that, hey, well, does it, you know? Security wrap up, you just type a email to the boss, well, yeah, boss, security done, time to go, right? So what is necessary is that we have to have an understanding of all the layers that we have in our topology that we mapped from before, and to understand the security requirements that these layers often have. What kind of switches do you have in your infrastructure? What is the security features of those switches, right? Let's take a look at them. Can we apply the security features of these switches and make my switching environment more secure? Let's do that. What are the type of routers that we have? What are the security features of these routers? Can we apply these features and make our routing infrastructure more secure? In our data center, what are the security features of our data center? It could be physical, it could be logical, it could be within the infrastructure itself. Can we take a look at these features and implement them, right? Wireless, for the love of God, people, please ensure that you have proper and secure wireless protocols in place, right? If I see anybody running WP, I will personally come across there and shake your hand, right? Because it is one of the most dependent parts of the organizations today. Almost everything runs on wireless unless you have printers and servers and these things that need hardwire connectivity, right? So wireless is very important, and it is one of the easiest points of entry into the infrastructure, right? Because a lot of people treat it as a joke, right? We need wireless over here in this part of the building. Well, all right, run down to Circuit Zone and buy a router for $200 and just connect it. Well, all right, talk done. Wireless, get through, right? That's not how it works, right? Ensure that you have proper and secure wireless infrastructure systems. You know, that reminds me, I once went to, I can't remember the name of the company, but I asked them when I was there, I say, hey, you all have Wi-Fi, I just want to jump on and just check some stuff. And it's like, yeah, here's the Wi-Fi password. So I'm expecting like a guest SSID or something with some kind of segmentation. So one of the things that we typically do at CFSI, once we get access to that infrastructure, we is like, hey, how far can we go, right? Let's see. So that's a typical mindset that we have. So while I was there, I was on my phone, but our phones have a bunch of really awesome tools on it. So I was like, hey, I have access to the Wi-Fi. Let's see how far I can go. And someone in their genius mind actually connected the Wi-Fi guest system to the production network. So I was able to see all the Active Directory servers. I could access the file shares. I could access the printers. I could pull down database access. It was a good time for me. But these are the things that we need to take into consideration, right? Even down to the end user systems. A lot of people think that, hey, well, you know, we have infrastructure security in place. What we doing about, you know, the end user system? Oh, just put some Avast, download Avast there and put it on that. I mean, that's fine, right? But it's not enterprise grade protection. And we need to ensure that we have these enterprise level protection systems in place, right? To mitigate the risks, because homeboys in China and Russia are not coming to deal with Avast, you know? They coming to handle hard, right? They play hardball, and you need to have the proper protections and systems in place to mitigate these kinds of risks. So ensure that you're not using the term that, hey, we have a firewall in place and everything good to go. No, because security for the infrastructure side comprises of multiple tenants in the infrastructure, and there are multiple facets and ways that we could gain entry, right? Which leads me to the last point. I'll try to make this quick. Last slide, please.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Let's go, yes.
understanding the traffic flow and protocols, right? So now that we have the infrastructure security up and running, let's try to understand the traffic flow and the protocols, right? Now that you've built the highways, right? You've built the roundabouts, you've built your junctions, you've built your entire infrastructure on which your traffic can move back and forth, east, west, north, and south. What are the types of traffic that's running on this roadway, right? And that's important to understand. You need to know, hey, well, what kind of data is moving over my infrastructure? What protocols do I have in use in my network, right? Do I have POP3 running? Am I using DNS? Am I using HTTP? This web server that I have here published on the internet has SMB on it. That's cool. Yeah, well, all right, cool, nice, right? Without understanding what services are necessary in the infrastructure, we will not know how to protect it. And in doing so, how will you detect when something is wrong, right? It is not like the movies where you have a big flashing siren lights and a screen on the wall that says intruder, hacker detected, and all kind of nonsense like that, right? You have to know when your network is not functioning normal. And how will you know when something isn't normal when you don't know what normal looks like? Do you know what is the normal amount of bandwidth for your servers? Do you know what is the regular amount of traffic moving over your infrastructure, right? What if your 1 gig link that you have in your switches, in your branch office, is usually using 200 megs, and then tomorrow you wake up and it's using 500 megs? What changed? How do you know that there was a change in traffic? So you have to know what normal looks like first, and then you can detect when something has changed or when something isn't normal. That's when you need to pay attention. And these attackers are getting craftier every day. Some of the guys are on this panel, right? And their main job is not like in the 90s and to the early 2000s where people used to break into your systems and cause damage and stuff like that. These guys are trying to be as silent as possible. They're trying to make as little noise, and they're trying to remain inside of your infrastructure without being detected. So your job is to try and detect them even when they're not making as much noise as possible. How do we do that? Get some tools, right? Not Lachlan and Nigan tools, but ICT tools, right? Understand how we can capture the information from our infrastructure to make informed decisions. Understand what your syslogs look like. Understand what your SNMPs look like. Aggregate your data from your network devices and use security incident and event managers, or SIEMs, right? Do you have a inventory? Do you have an asset database? How are you able to capture these types of information? So without understanding what information can be presented, you will not be able to properly evaluate and protect your architecture. So as much information as you can basically get from your architecture and understand your network topology, then you'll be able to properly protect these types of systems. So I'll hand back over to Shiva right now, and thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. And the last point there that you raised was pretty important, because I know too many administrators, network administrators, systems administrators, and they maintain large networks, and sometimes they may not know what exists on the network. For example, they may have come in to the network long after it was built and so on, but they may not have a detailed topology. And as Joel was saying, sometimes understanding topology, you grab a pen and paper and you start to draw it out. You have to implement something, same thing, right? So you sort of do a mind mapping process. But for us in particular, the way that we would actually get into the network, for example, when we start doing the other workshops as well, we will go through, as Jonathon was doing, is actually part of the reconnaissance where we gain information. Remember, he was saying that some job sites and some when they advertise positions, they actually give it away, right? For example, some very large companies recently put out some ads for IT and network specialists, and they were asking you if you to be specialized in specific versions of certain things, like for example, Microsoft Server 2016 or 2019. They must know about Cisco switches, Cisco routers, Fortinet firewalls, all of these things. So right there, we could actually put together exactly what kind of infrastructure you have. Yes, we will probably go a step further when we do scanning and so on, and get into the network, scan everything and see what is what servers are there, what are physical, virtual, these kind of things. But understanding and knowing your network is the first step in actually securing your network, right? Yes, policies are excellent, policies are great, but do people adhere to those policies? Are those policies monitored? What happens when someone violates a policy? Does it even go noticed to begin with, right? So all of these things you have to consider that we'll be bringing up in future workshops. So it's my turn, right? Shiva, that's me, director, pen tester, lecturer, forensic investigator, and aspiring doubles vendor, because cybersecurity is really exhausting. I have not slept in quite some time. Plus, I've been doing this for 10 years, pen testing for 10 years, but I've actually been in security and cybersecurity since 2004. So I have about 15 years experience just in cybersecurity, not even IT. In IT in general, it's longer, right? So I want to talk to you all. I wouldn't take up too much of your time. I'll try to just be about 10 minutes because it's already 10 to 8. Thanks, Deo.
Don't know.
All right, so yeah, I mean, thanks to all the guys for presenting and stuff. It's a pity that we don't have more time for it, but like I mentioned to everyone else there, we will have all of this stuff up on YouTube, and we will be doing individual presentations and workshops in time to come. All right, so I want to talk to you a little bit about digital forensics, incident response, show you all at least one forensic operating system, which I have a snapshot of, a screenshot, right, and go a little bit further into blue teaming and purple teaming. So you see that picture I have on your right-hand side there? That was actually one of the first computers ever built around like between 1822 to 1830 something by Charles Babbage, right? So it was actually called the analytical engine. But I mean, if for those of you that know about cars and engines and stuff, it actually kind of does look like a little bit like an engine, really fancy engine. Maybe Johnny could build this and put it in his car. But as far as computers go and computing goes, it goes as far back as not even the 18th century. I think even in the 16th century, the word compute actually was used. I mean, it's basically about maths and calculations when you think about it. That image that you see in there was really just a calculator. Of course, that would have been the first calculator that was actually created, right? So even though I have there in the third point that the first PC was built in 1981 by IBM, it was circa 1981, 1982. But even before that, in the late 70s and so on, you actually had the first processor, like a miniature processor being developed in the actual 70s. And even computers like radio signals for contact, they would have actually gone back as far as World War II and so on. So you could actually say that that was a small wireless network. So computers, computing, all of these aren't new, right? There's a nice site that I want to give you all a link to that shows you a timeline of computers and computing from as far back as they could have recorded until now. All right, and the internet that we know about, I mean, it wasn't really domestically available until the mid-90s. So sites like Google wasn't around yet. You might have had like Excite and Lycos and Yahoo was around back then as well, right? So for us in particular, doing all these things, it would have started around the 1990s. I mean, back in 1995 or 96, the first thing that actually got me started was a movie called Hackers. And I saw Hackers and I was like, damn, that's what I want to do. And then unfortunately I did it, and now I don't have a life and I don't sleep. I guess that's what Call of Duty is for. So yeah, hacking was pretty easy back in the 90s and early 2000s because nobody really had antivirus and firewalls. Or if people had antivirus, it was some expired version of McAfee antivirus. Please, I hope that none of you are using McAfee antivirus. I think all of us use Avast on our Windows machines, but on our different distributions of Linux, Linux itself is not an actual really operating
Linux
system.
OS.
Yeah, right there. There are different versions and distributions of Linux out there that we use. You can think about it like ice cream. How we have different flavors of ice cream, right? So we have different flavors of operating systems like Ubuntu, Kali, Parrot, and so on. Yeah, but back then in the 90s, yeah, you're right. In the 90s, it was so easy to hack people. I'm not saying that I used to do this stuff, obviously, but it was pretty easy to hack people back then, right? But because of that, from the 1990s until the early 2010s, around 2011, 2012, it was ridiculously easy. I remember there was one time I bought the first Kindle Fire tablet, and I wiped out the Fire OS and I put Android on it, and there were a lot of hacking tools that I put on it. So I would go to a food court and hijack the router, for example, and just see all the traffic. And you could, back then there were tools such as Droid Sheep in particular, and Droid Sniff, and all these things where you could actually see everybody's information coming up. So for example, someone's Facebook profile would come up, someone's email would come up. I didn't do anything malicious. I know I really just wanted to try it out at that point, right? They would stop laughing. I did not do anything malicious. right? But that's how easy it was. Now it's a little bit harder. Yeah, we have to use Linux tools and so on. But if you dedicate enough time, I mean, you can be like that. So I was talking to a forensic investigator from, I think it was Pennsylvania or something, and I was asking him about the age of the youngest hacker that they knew about that they took down, and he said 12 years old. And this hacker, 12-year-old hacker, did not have any programming experience or anything. He was just like Jonathon said. He went on to Google, found a lot of resources. He started to learn little bit on his own, and he didn't do like a big amazing hack like from the bank or something. But I think he got into someone's email and sent out a bunch of emails from there threatening people or something like that. Right, so it was around that time that we saw the need for the first type of first responders, I should say. So I have the wrong thing there. Even as first responses, it should actually be first responders. So incident response is pretty much similar to if you have an accident and you call the fire service or the ambulance. The paramedics would usually be the first responders. So if you have a breach, for example, you can call us, the forensics investigators. We are the first responders. So how do you be a forensic specialist like myself and some of these guys? Everything that these guys spoke about, you have to be at the top of it, because forensics is at the top of the pyramid. You need to start with your networking and then build up to understand red teaming and being a hacker, penetration tester, vulnerability assessment. And then from that, you need to understand a little bit of how to tie those two in together with the networking and the penetration testing or the red teaming. And then you can actually get into the blue teaming, because forensics is a very tedious process. Sometimes it takes days or weeks just to find one little bit of evidence, because a lot of this evidence might have been deleted. It could be hidden. And these days we have some very large hard drives. So some of them might be 1 terabyte up to recently we bought a lot of hard drives, and each hard drive was 16 terabytes, and they now have 32 terabyte drives out there. So it makes life a little hard, but this is where the tools, we learn to use them and utilize everything. You need a very strong understanding of things like TCP/IP protocols, RAM, Windows registry. You need experience on various operating systems like a Windows machine, Mac machine, various flavors of Linux and Unix, mobile devices, a very solid understanding of best acquisition practices. For example, if we would like to acquire evidence from a hard drive or a phone, right? That's what we call hard drive acquisition. So we need to know the best practices and protocols for doing that. There's something called the order of volatility. Volatility applies to the data. For example, if you want a desktop machine, and let's say your mom passes and she unplugs your desktop to plug in the vacuum cleaner, which has happened to me actually, you lose everything that was on the screen. So whatever was on your screen was actually stored in the memory, your random access memory, and it's stored there while there's an electrical charge to your RAM or to your memory. So if the power to your memory is lost, whatever was on your screen, whatever documents you were working on is usually lost. So that's what I mean by order of volatility. The ones that are the data that is highly volatile or easily erasable, you need to acquire that first. So as forensics investigators, we jump straight in, we acquire the RAM, and then we move on to something called the paging file, then the hard drive, then external storage. So basically data that is stored somewhere and saved somewhere, that can still last. What we need first of all, the most volatile data, is what we have to acquire or forensically acquire first. You also need to have the ability to think like a hacker. As Johnny was saying, in order to catch a thief, you need to think like a thief. Same thing applies to hacking as well, right? And you also need to be able to use lots of tools out there. Some of them are commercial, some of them are open source. So we have many forensics tools, and we will be doing a dedicated forensic workshop where I will actually show you all how to use CSI Linux and capture the RAM. Or we'll actually have a sample file that you all can download, and we can analyze, which will be a machine that was infected with ransomware. The ransomware is not going to spread to your machine when we do this exercise or anything. It's a very controlled environment we'll be working in that will not harm your machine in any way whatsoever, right? But we will analyze the RAM, for example, to look at ransomware and then see how we could see traces of ransomware inside the memory itself. So that's one of the workshops that we'll do as well. My favorite tool to use, my favorite operating system, is one called CSI Linux. It is very recent. It was developed by Jeremy Martin. I am hoping that for that webinar or that workshop, we could actually get Jeremy here to talk about CSI Linux a little bit. right? There's another operating system called Kane. There's one called Deft. Now, the thing is, these operating systems here, like CSI Linux, Kane, and Deft, they actually come with a variety of tools, sometimes hundreds of forensic tools inside of there. But you can install most of these tools in the Ubuntu operating system and build your own toolkit, for example, right? Then we have a lot of commercial tools out there like Ncase, FTK, Mobile Edit. Perhaps our good friend Leslie might be able to join us one day and talk about Belkasoft or Cellbrite or Mobile Edit, as long as he gets over his stage fright at some point. Hi, Leslie. So this is CSI Linux, right? This is the one that I use, and this is just the menu, part of the menu for CSI Linux for forensics, right? So for example, as Johnny was doing before, which is the open source intelligent or OSINT, right? We have a lot of tools that you could use built into it right here. So you don't have to go searching, jumping from operating system to operating system, browser to browser. There are a lot of things inside of here. My favorite tool out of all of these is in the corner here called Shodan. Shodan, you can actually visit Shodan. You could type Shodan in Google right now, and it'll bring up shodan.io, which is an Internet of Things search engine that we will be doing a workshop on as well. All right, and then one of my other favorite operating systems is Kali Linux, but Kali is more for what Alex spoke about with red teaming, but what I'm talking about is more blue teaming. So blue teaming is forensics, red teaming is hacking. And then when you actually combine red teaming and blue teaming, you actually get something called purple teaming. So I have the pictures of Keanu Reeves as Neo and John Wick there for a reason, right? But blue teaming is just purely based on responding to incidents and forensics and so on. It's more individuals that are specialized in incident response or IR rather than hacking and pen testing. All right, so you have a lot of procedures and protocols and best practices that you need to know about before you actually jump into these things, because it's just like in a court case. For example, let's just say there was a shooting and you have the incident responders, the paramedics, whoever, and the police investigators. They would jump on the scene and they would be very careful about how they handle the evidence and how they bag it, how they tag it, as we would say, send it off to storage. So that is what we have to do as well. We have to know all of these procedures because we don't want something to be carried to court. And then in the middle of it, we see something like, for whatever reason, the data was compromised or something is missing somewhere. Maybe a hard drive got corrupted along the way, or we were responsible for corrupting the hard drive, right? All of these things could happen. So this is where there are a lot of standard formal procedures. So blue team members, they may be less knowledgeable in the technical understanding of the actual way in which the attack transpired or happened, came about, right? But this is where purple teaming comes into place, because actually, if you think about the colors red and blue, when you mix the colors red and blue, you actually get the color purple, right? So purple teaming is a highly specialized, unique field. All of us together, we form a purple teaming. I myself, Alex, we all have our special skills, but we all learn from each other. So we're all actually purple team members, and we are part of purple teaming. So whereas Keanu Reeves in the Matrix may have just been there and focused on one job, which was to try and liberate the people and stuff, John Wick, on the other hand, he was kind of just minding his business, but John Wick kind of has the ability to do everything, right? To unfortunately to take out people, but to also preserve lives as well and whatnot. So the purple team members wouldn't just be like, you know, a type of matrix type thing, which is more like red teaming, for example, or one side and blue teaming. Purple teaming means that you understand and you have the experience and knowledge of both sides in red and blue teaming to be the John Wick of cybersecurity, where you have total control of your environment and you understand the networking, the incident response, the pen testing. So it's a combination of all these skill sets, and purple team members are really difficult and hard to come by, because if you have someone that understands this amount of knowledge, how do you pay them? For example, I have this skill set, I own my own company, I've been here for 10 years. How do you pay me and tell me you would like me to drive through hours of traffic every day, get up at 4 a.m. and reach to work? I hope you intend to pay me like 30,000 US or something like that. Or it has to be like maybe right next door to my house, perhaps. All right, so there are a lot of tools that you have to go through. So you can't just use things like Kali Linux and CSI Linux alone. You have to have your own arsenal, which is where Ubuntu, for example, the Ubuntu operating system might come in. And you could install all these Linux tools, for example, or Linux-based tools, I should say, on your version of Ubuntu. You could create your own type of Kali environment or your own type of CSI Linux, or blend them together. All right, so I don't want to get too much into that stuff there, but that is just to sort of whet your appetite a bit, because like I said, we will have all these coming up in webinars, individual webinars. All right, so the next webinar that we have is actually going to be on purple teaming, and we will try and get a couple guys if they would like to, right? One is the IT manager from Agostini. I believe he's on this webinar. Shout out to Julian if he's here, right? And to Alex and Johnny's boss, Anil, who is one of the executive managers in Ernst & Young. So I've put together a bit of learning resources here. Alex, if he's there, could you please just throw this into the Discord chat? This one here, computer history. This is what I was talking about with the timeline. ProfessorMesser.com. I highly urge you all to visit this site. So those of you that are now beginning in cybersecurity, they've been kind enough to also offer their services for free. They have the entire CompTIA E+, Network Plus, and Security Plus courses, full courses on video for free, right? So you could do that, as well as there are some full courses also in cybersecurity, risk management, forensics at cybrary.it. Our recordings as well will be up on YouTube so that we could share it, because I've gotten a lot of complaints on people that could not register because they sort of stuck on registering past one day and everything just got booked up in one day. Right? If you are looking for advanced training in ethical hacking, threat intelligence, network defense, and so on, you can visit our site, which is cfsi.co. We do have the flyers for the courses, which will be starting on, all of them start on Saturday, August 28th. We also have a cybersecurity fundamentals course that they will be teaching. Johnny will be teaching the threat intelligence course bundled with the CompTIA cybersecurity analyst. And Alex will be teaching the certified ethical hacker, which is bundled with the CompTIA Pentest Plus and 2 other certificates. Right, so we do have the cheapest prices in the world. I am proud to offer that because we're more about sort of, transferring our knowledge into what we know, into giving, so we try to keep the fees as low as possible. Right, and then for those of you that may be a bit advanced, you can learn hacking itself on sites such as Over the Wire, Hack the Box, Hack the Site. So I'll ask Alex to put these links up in the Discord channel, right? And we will be communicating with you all there on the Discord channel. So if you'll have questions as well, so you could feel free to join the channel and reach us there as well. Right, I know that I said that you would be getting a certificate for this workshop in particular. Right, so what I need you all to do, all of you, I hope you are listening, right, is we created a Gmail account called cfsi.forms@gmail.com. What I need you all to do is just send us an email, right, at that site, at that address, sorry, that email address at cfsi.forms@gmail.com. with the name that you would like to have printed on your certificate. And it may take about two to 3 weeks because we have to do all these certs. Thank you, Savi, in advance, and send it out to you all, right? So hopefully though, as we work towards sponsorship, those certs will actually be sent to you all automatically. When you register, it will take the name that you've registered under and use that to automatically build the certificate and email it out to you at the end of the workshop or the webinar. All right, and also, last but least, if you enjoyed the workshop, feel free to leave a comment on our LinkedIn or our social media pages at CFSI. This is our LinkedIn page here. You just go to linkedin.com/company/CFSI CyberSec. But if you go to LinkedIn and type Computer Forensics and Security Institute or CFSI, it should actually come up. I'll come back to this slide here in a moment. Yeah, so these are some of the upcoming workshops that we have. It's not in this particular order, but next we will definitely be looking more into purple teaming, where we talk about the difference between the blue team, the purple team, and some tools. And we'll actually try maybe a demo of a couple tools to actually show you all the differences between the red teams and the purple teams and so on, right? That's just one of the workshops that we have coming up. So this is one that I spoke about, which is ransomware artifact discovery and analysis and memory analysis using volatility. These are forensics in particular, which we'll be working at as well. So we want to try and help you all work towards, or at least see for yourselves that it's not that hard. You can do all these things that we do. I encourage you to try out, download virtual machines and so on. We will show you all this as well. Maybe if we have the time next month, we will actually put this in another workshop, which will be about building your pen testing and forensics labs. Right, so we'll show you all how to set up your own red team, your own blue team, and together make a purple team environment where you will be able to do all of these things on your own, and we will be posting everything on YouTube. So you will have the tutorials to follow through. So even if you can't keep up with us during the workshop, you will have it there, right? And we'll also post all of these links again in the Discord channel. All right, so I'm checking the chat here. I'm not really seeing many questions. You could also ask questions in the Discord group. All right, but yeah, if you all have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to shoot us some sort of question, or if you have a comment or something like that, or wants to know, if you want to know like what dish they was going to cook next on Taste of Trini while Johnny stalks him. Of course, not in a bad way or an illegal way. All right, but yeah, I mean, just Curry Aganalu, my nemesis. All right, so thanks thanks a lot for joining us for this workshop, right? I know it was a lot to take in with all of us presenters there, but I see like a lot of people are still here on the chat and here on the webinar itself. So guys, I hope this was good for you all. We will, like I said, we will try to keep this going for as long as we can. Even if we don't get sponsorship, I am paying for this at least until a year from now, right? Because I want to make sure that we put this content out there that is free, because we know that a lot of these courses, even though we do offer them the cheapest in the world, there are a lot of people, especially due to COVID, you can't get jobs, or you may have been laid off, or maybe you're just a student and trying to decide where to go from here, right? So we will try to put up as much content, and along the way in different webinars, give you all as much advice as we could, and even bring people. We do have some speakers, international speakers in future webinars, and of course, again, we will show, when I say show, we will actually put up everything for you all on the different platforms. But like I said, this LinkedIn link that you have here, there's where I usually put all the links up first, right? What we'll probably do too is that we will put them up on LinkedIn and Discord, because just to show our appreciation because of the fact that you guys are here and you lasted the entire 2 hours more. Thanks, Dale. We'll probably just as a way of thanks, we will put up the link in the Discord channel as well, so you all will get it first, and we will then put it up on LinkedIn and then the social media sites, right? Because as for now, again, it's only 100 until we could get sponsorship to increase to either 250 attendees or 500 attendees, right? But it will be there on YouTube, so even if you want to recommend us and share it, that would help us greatly to share our services. Even if you want to take your certificate when you get it and maybe crop a screenshot and put it up on LinkedIn or tag us on Facebook or something, all these things will go a long way in helping us to get some pen testing jobs as well too, so that's appreciated, right? But from all of us here at CFSI, thank you very, very much for joining us for our first workshop. The other workshops from here will be practical, so Johnny gave you all a bit of a taste of what to expect in the practical sessions. This was just to clear the way for the fundamental and the theory, to just get it out of the way, to whet your appetite, maybe encourage you to do a bit of reading or a lot of reading, however it might be, right? We will send as many links as we can in the Discord chat and keep you, up to date on threats and so on. But yeah, that's it from us at CFSI. So thanks very much, guys, for joining us today. We appreciate the time. Sorry we went overboard, but we get a bit excited sometimes, and it happens. All right, so yeah, guys, thanks for being panelists. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you all very much. We have some work to do because I have like 2 or 3 pen tests lined up, and I will die doing it on my own. So yeah. All right, so folks, we will see you all. The next webinar should be in the middle of August at least, but I will let you all know first on the Discord channel.
Middle of
before we
September.
do- Sorry, not August, September. My brain is all over. It feels like it was 2020, and then blink, boom, August 2021, and then we what 4 months away from 2022. Yeah,
Some.
4 months away from 2022 already. So yeah, all right, thanks for joining us, guys. Have a good night, a good evening, good weekend till we meet again, and you all please be safe out there. Sanitize. If you can vaccinate yourselves and your family, I mean, think about it, right? Check your doctor first before you do anything. Make sure that you can actually take the vaccine and so on. But yeah, have a good one. You all be safe, and please feel free to reach out and send us comments. Let us know if you enjoyed the webinar too. All right, so you all take care. All right, boys, later.
Yeah, man.